Hi everyone, I'm Zoya Eunice,
And I'm Nessa.
and we are the co-hosts and founders of the Synapse Podcast.
Today we're so excited to be joined by Jaya Gupta, the founder and president of Girls in Literature.
So just a little background information, Girls in Literature is a youth-led nonprofit dedicated to expanding access to education for girls through initiatives like mentorship and educational programs.
Jaya, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to chat. I'm doing super well. This is such a cool project that you guys have put together.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. So to kick things off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, like just a tiny introduction?
Yeah, sure. So, like Nessa gave that awesome introduction, and so did you, Zoya. My name is Jaya, and I am a rising senior at UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina. And I am a neuroscience major, and I am also the founder and president of Girls in Literature, which, like Zoya said, is a youth-led nonprofit dedicated to expanding access to education. I'm super passionate about reading, literacy, and just all things access to resources for people who might not have them.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, thank you so much. So, what first inspired you to create Girls and Literature?
Yeah, so I have always grown up in a household that's been filled with books. I've been writing my whole life, and in my household, education's always been something that has been a priority. Both my parents are immigrants, and after hearing a lot about their backgrounds, I've kind of been able to recognize that I really wouldn't have the life that I do had education not been something that has been at the forefront of their lives. And kind of from there, really recognizing the power that education has to completely transform entire generations. But even prioritizing education is not a privilege that a lot of people are afforded. And one of those reasons may be because someone is simply born a girl, or they're born in a country where issues like gender-based violence or child marriage might be something that they're grappling with. And those are things that I kind of wanted to be able to give the ability to access education, so students like that would have a smoother journey through maybe possibly achieving higher education and possibly being able to break those cycles for future generations.
Yeah, I love that you took the initiative to actually solve the problem. Like, I feel like most teenagers just come up with problems, but don't actually think about what the next steps could be in solving it. So I love that you actually took the time and came up with the whole entire nonprofit dedicated to solving these problems that you saw. Okay, Nessa, do you want to get us
Yeah,
started?
yeah, and I think that education is such a big thing, like, especially the stuff that's going on in Afghanistan today, for example, is such a, amazing example of how a nonprofit like this could actually help people. And yeah, to think that you could actually make an impact as a high school student is just so inspiring.
Thank you.
I'm personally curious, what's your favorite part of what you've built so far? Because looking at your website, you have such a variety of impact from helping students in Zimbabwe to like worldwide book shipping. So, what's your favorite part about it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think just the fulfillment that I get from hearing individual stories and hearing individual schools and how we are actually able to make an impact in students' lives. There was a recent book shipment that we did to a school in Uganda, and we were actually able to help them start their very first library in the area ever. And so getting those pictures back and getting to see the environment that these students are living in, and getting to see just like the joy on their faces from getting to read books, and hearing back from the school teachers that the students this week were being taught how to check out books for the first time and then how to deliver them back at the end of the week when they were done with them. And that's something kind of in our everyday lives that we're like, oh yeah, like we can go to the library and check out a book and we bring that back at the end of the week. Like we go to school and we have libraries, and that's something that's ingrained in us since we were little kids. But for a lot of people, that's kind of such a foreign concept for them that that's something that they're being taught later in life. And so getting to see those pictures and hearing those stories has been really amazing. And that's on the books side of it. But then also, you had mentioned that school in Zimbabwe, and we run a pen pal program with them. So essentially, their students write letters to some of our volunteers, and our volunteers will write back, and then this kind of happens on a pretty consistent basis. And that's been going on for about a year now. So those students have really been able to like form honest and really genuine relationships with their pen pals, and just getting to see how those exchanges have evolved and getting to see them really form those relationships, and then also really getting to see how their writing skills have improved through something like writing letters every week and just growing along with this program. Like that has been another one of my favorite parts.
Could you tell me a little more about the logistics of kind of starting a whole library in a foreign country? I think that's such a huge accomplishment, and I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, it takes some time, and it takes, some a good amount of fundraising. That was something that was definitely a challenge that I did not realize I would face coming into starting an organization like this, is that like shipping books overseas takes a lot of money. Books are really heavy, and even, if they're picture books, children's books, those start to build up. So kind of like all of our book shipments, the process starts with reaching out to community hotspots. So, libraries, schools, even individual people who have shown interest in donating, and asking about books that they're willing to give up and to donate to these countries and these students. So that's kind of how the process starts to getting the books, and that usually like people are really enthusiastic. It's been an amazing show of support from all the communities that we've worked with. They've been incredible in letting us use their spaces to hold these book drives and advertising to the community that this is what's going on. So once that happens, the next step is kind of fundraising to make it all happen. And that again is a huge community effort on the community's part, on our volunteers' part, but then also on our executive team. So we have a team of incredible individuals. We have an amazing fundraising team who works to make sure that we're able to raise the funds that we need. And I think for this shipment, we needed about like $500, $600 to make it happen. Yeah. So it takes a little bit of time to, we do a lot of like power hours, stuff like bake sales sometimes, just like little things that, really go a long way. But truly it's because of our volunteers and our community members that we're able to raise all of that money. And then once the books go off, like that's the biggest hurdle out of the way. And then we're able to support in any kind of way that we can.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting to me because I never thought about that aspect of like the shipment being too heavy and stuff. And
Me neither, girl.
yeah, yeah, so connecting to that, conversely, what's one of those difficult parts of what you do with girls in literature, either with these logistics or in general?
I think the biggest thing maybe is just convincing people sometimes that a youth-led organization is able to get stuff done. There's times where, we've arranged for a partnership, or earlier in the organization's history had wanted to partner with maybe like a larger organization just to kind of see how they've done things. And I've gotten to the point of, okay, like we set up this meeting, and then I get on the camera, and then they're like, wait, so how old are you? And then things kind of change from there. So then after that, there's a lot of work in like convincing people that, hey, like a youth-led organization can really get things done. I think in recent years, there's been an incredible surge of just like youth-led initiatives and kids and students just like really getting things done and making change on a global scale. So I think like as a whole, that's been really beneficial. But I think definitely starting out, that was one of the biggest things is really proving the validity of this organization and showing people that, a group of students really can make a huge change.
Yeah, I
Did
feel like
that
that's
kind of
really hard,
yeah.
but
Sorry?
but you guys have done, like, a great job with doing that, like, you guys have done so many things, like schools in Zimbabwe and stuff, so
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So did that kind of ameliorate itself over time, or is it still, like, an ongoing issue for you?
I think it's definitely, it's calmed down in that aspect a little bit, especially as we have the stats now and we have previous organizational partnerships and results on our belt to kind of prove that, we could work with bigger organizations and whatnot. But yeah, I think over time that's definitely gotten better, but it was like definitely a hill that had to be jumped over first.
Okay, so as you said before in the start of this meeting, that you are a rising senior at the University of North Carolina. So, how has the transition from high school to university been? And what's one thing you wish you had known before starting university?
Oh, that's a good question. Like just in general.
Yeah, just in general.
Okay. It was definitely it's a difficult transition for sure. I think it's a very formative time in your life and it's a time where you don't really know exactly who you are or even what your interests, like you maybe know what your interests are, but you may not know what to do with them, or you may not know what you want to study. Just all of these really big, kind of seemingly like life-changing decisions that you might have to make. So it's definitely difficult. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I would have is to say that like give yourself some grace, take it easy and just, take care of yourself through that transition. But then kind of to contradict myself a little bit is to really take chances and recognize that privilege that you have to be able to explore and find yourself in an institution where you can really just learn and kind of like soak up the universe and take all these classes and explore and figure out what you want to do with your life. It's definitely it's something that's not everyone has access to and truly is a privilege. So, like, recognize that at the same time, but yeah, give yourself a little bit of grace.
Yeah, so I understand that like university can obviously be super hard because some people obviously also like travel to go to their university, and I think that's a great piece of advice just to like give yourself some time, like give yourself some grace because it's definitely a challenging transition.
For sure. For sure.
Just curious, did you travel to go to university or did you kind of stay in your home?
Yeah, so I traveled. I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. area, so right outside of D.C. It's not a crazy travel. It's about 5 hours to get to UNC Chapel Hill, so definitely not the same kind of traveling that some people have to do, especially I have some international friends. I cannot imagine how they're doing what they did, but yeah, so it's not a very, very far drive, but it's definitely leaving home for that first time is a struggle. So no matter where you're going or how far it is, that first year is gonna be hard.
Yeah. So kind of back to your high school experience. I saw that you did clubs kind of like throughout high school, like Model UN, Social Change Club.
Mhm.
I know a lot of students these days are very ambitious and they try and join as many clubs as possible to like get to the end goal of like a good university. Would you say that like clubs are helpful beyond just being an addition to a resume? Or sorry, do you think they're helpful
It's okay.
beyond an addition? Sorry, that's my grandma.
No, you're all good.
Do you think they're helpful beyond an addition to a resume, or do you think you just did them for, like, that aspect of it?
I think they're definitely super beneficial beyond anything resume-wise. I think first of all, like for people joining clubs, it's the most beneficial thing if you're choosing something that you really care about because it is time outside of, it's your free time. And so it's something that you want to make sure you enjoy. But like beyond that too, getting to make new friends and getting to explore just interests that you might have thought you didn't have. With the two you mentioned specifically, like those were as much fun as they were. Like I enjoyed them so much. They were some of my favorite memories of high school, being a part of clubs. But I feel like I use skills that I learned in those 2 clubs even today, like Model UN, I learned a lot about public speaking, I learned a lot about, like, how to talk to new people. Going to those conferences, there were people from all over the country there, so just really getting to work those social skills and then work those public speaking skills, and I feel like those have benefited me immensely to this day. And so I think clubs are, definitely can be a great resume builder. And those are things to show that, hey, you've committed yourself to whatever interests you may have. But they also are a long-term investment in yourself and the skills that you develop later down the road.
Yeah. I think that's like a really impactful thing to say because again, like a lot of like people are just kind of thinking as clubs as like a means to an end.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
really
for sure.
helpful to have that perspective, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like clubs are, yeah, as you said, super fun and they can help build your resume by showing that you are passionate about something. Like if you're passionate about public speaking, you can do Model UN and so many different
Yeah.
other things. So
Yeah.
a lot of our listeners on this podcast are students who have ideas, but they don't know where to begin. So do you have any advice for students like currently thinking about starting like something or like starting something just like Girls in Literature like you did?
Hmm. These are great questions. Yeah, I think like right off the bat, kind of the most obvious one, but also maybe the most important is picking something that you're really passionate about. And like you were just talking about, Nessa, not having something that's just going to be a resume builder because otherwise it's not a recipe for success in that way and won't have that same kind of longevity. So I think definitely picking something that you're super passionate about. This is my 5th year working on Girls in Literature, and I've probably dedicated like thousands and thousands of hours to it. And that's not something that anyone can really do unless it's something that they love. So that's the first thing. And then I think the second thing is really invest in a strong and passionate team. You are only one person, and you need to make sure that you have people with similar interests and similar goals, and people who are just as passionate about this cause as you, because truly, like, it is the team and it is the volunteer community, and it is all of those external factors also that to a project's success. So ultimately, I think really investing in that kind of strong support system for whatever it is that you're trying to start is super important.
Yeah. Sorry, this is just out of curiosity, but
Yeah, go for
you
it.
started a literature nonprofit. I personally love reading. I was wondering, what are your favorite
Yes.
books to read?
My gosh, so many. That's a hard question.
Yeah, I know.
That's a really hard question. I kind of try to pick, like, I'm always reading a couple books at a time, and it's like one from a couple different genres. Let me think. I think we just kind of along the lines of literature, and if we're sticking to the theme here, have you read A Thousand Splendid Suns?
No. Who's that by?
Okay.
I think I've heard of
By
it.
Khaled Hosseini. Yes, he wrote The Kite Runner as well, which I think is a little bit more popular, but he writes amazing books. So A Thousand Splendid Suns is one of my all-time favorites. Recently, I have been reading a book called Dominion by Addie Kitchens. And so it was recently, I'm pretty sure it was either shortlisted or longlisted for the Women's Prize in Fiction. So that's another one that I've been reading. What else have I been reading recently? Oh, I'm a little bit late to the game, but I recently read the new Hunger Games book, Sunrise on the
Sounds
Reaping.
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
have you finished it?
Yeah, have you?
Okay, I'm on the last few pages.
I love I think it was like Edgar Allan Poe, like the comparison between
Okay.
yeah, it was so cool because I learned it in school, but
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
the connection between was so cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, but back to the podcast topic.
No, you're good. I could talk about books forever and ever.
So obviously, Girls in Literature is kind of business adjacent as a
Mm.
nonprofit. Are there any soft skills that you feel that you had to develop to be able to run the business successfully, or do you feel like that was something that you kind of came naturally to you?
Definitely so many that I had to develop. I think leadership is one of those things that can be just kind of a buzzword sometimes, and it's like one of those things like, oh, like a good leader can do this and this and this, and but it's you really don't understand what those things mean, I feel like, until you really step into them. And running a team and having to be super mindful of this person, this is what motivates this person, or this is what project this person might not like to be on. Okay, we're in a group meeting and this person's maybe about to talk, or like looks like they're going to say something, might have an idea. And so like really coaxing that out of people has definitely been something that I've really enjoyed doing. I've loved seeing people, come into their own and become really strong change makers on this team. But yes, so just doing things like that and having to be really attuned to those sort of things was not something I really ever expected myself to have to learn on this position.
Yeah, I think leadership is definitely a big one. So, like, especially for you, you have so many people that you're like leading. You have such a big team with you, working with you. So, I think that
Mm.
leadership is definitely like a great skill to develop. And so,
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
our next question, you kind of already kind of like got the premises of this, like you kind of mentioned it throughout the
Mhm.
podcast, but what are you currently working with Girls in Literature, and what do you hope to accomplish in the future? Like, what are your future goals for Girls in Literature?
Loaded question. There's so many. I think one of the biggest things that we're going to try to do, we kind of divide our year into 3 quarters essentially. And with summer coming to an end, that's one of our quarters coming to an end. And one of the things that we're really looking into for the future is solidifying a lot of domestic partnerships and trying to get that domestic impact and reaching a lot of students across the US. We've worked a little bit with Title I schools before, and so that's something that we're going to try to continue to do is work with a lot of Title I schools, maybe even partner with school districts is something that we would love to do just to really assess which ones of our resources are being used, what teachers are liking to use, what students are enjoying, and then maybe also like English as a second language, so ESL programs in the country, and partnering with those individuals. So that's something that we're really looking to do in this next quarter. And then I think also really thinking about the word literacy and the idea of education and its broadest form of the word. So something that we're kind of getting off the ground right now is a health literacy initiative. So health literacy is essentially giving people the literacy tools that they need to be able to make informed health decisions. So working on an initiative like that is something that we're also really going to be focused on, especially in this next quarter.
Yeah, you guys have accomplished so many different things, like the Zimbabwe School Impact, as well as like your pen pal program and so many things. And I love like the future going on for you guys, and I love that you have like clear goals that you want to like get started on, like such as like partnering with different
Absolutely.
schools or working more with different organizations. So I think that
Yeah.
that's all for this podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today. I know that there
Yeah.
was some like conflict on when to start, like when to do the podcast, but I'm so happy that it
Mhm.
all worked out. And thank you so much
Yes, me
for
too.
clearing up your schedule.
You were an
Yeah, of
amazing
course.
first guest. I feel like I learned so much from
Yay.
you.
Yeah, me
Like,
too.
yeah, not even to say it for the podcast. I actually did. It was so helpful. So, yeah, for people listening, if you would like to be interviewed, if you have a story, email us at the Synapse Podcast official at Gmail. So,
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, guys. This has been
bye.
awesome. I had so much fun.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.